Hi there, Karen Flaherty here from Living by Human Design. Let's talk about today's human design weather and the transits and what's going on. Today we've got the gate 7 in the sun, and it's all about leadership. Okay, so we've got the sun in gate 7, which is a gate of leadership. It's also called the army, and it's about leading people, but in a very gentle way, in a very small d democratic way, and actually being asked to be the leader, which is kind of nice. So the 7 comes off the top of the G center right here, and the Earth is in the gate 13, which is right here, also coming off the G center. And the 13 is the gate of the listener. So that's a nice combination for the two of them, because, and Richard Rudd talks a lot about this, that the leadership is the person who is the leader is the listener. So it's a nice way, a nice combination for those two gates, and nice ones to have in your chart. So we start the week with no centers defined by the transits. Nothing gets defined here on the chart, just these gates that are here. As I mentioned, we have the 7 in the sun and 13 in the earth, and then we move down, we've got still the 36 in Neptune, which is coming off the solar plexus. And so if you do have the 35 in your chart, this might still be causing some emotional feelings there for you. And also you've got the 30 in Jupiter, which is causing some intensity in the world, as you can imagine. So these are definitely moving the energy around, but at least this is the second week in a row where no other centers get defined by the transits alone. So unless they're hooking up with some of your own gates, most people will be feeling more themselves this week than they have in a while. So that's a good thing. So the sun is in the gate 7, which is the gate of leadership. It's also called the army, or the role of the self in interaction in the original I Ching. That is, this is the person who is almost thrust into the leadership role, right? Somebody who's just, you kind of walk into the room. These are the people who walk into the room, for example, and everybody says, oh, let's pick Mikey. He can lead this committee, or he can lead this project, or she can do this. And so it's that kind of a personality. It's usually kind of a big personality. Again, these are Leo energies this month, in the month of August. And so you're going to have big energies who either think they should be leaders, or want to be leaders, or are recruited to be leaders. So it can be either any one of those, but they, in human design, they call it the point of convergence. By design, the need for leadership to guide and order society, because leaders are needed, or at least we think they're needed. This is the way we've all grown up, is that there's a hierarchy to the world. And so this leadership role is that kind of hierarchy. It's that kind of taking on a role that allows people to feel as if they're being led, and to corral the energies in a way that's good for everyone. The incarnation crosses this week are the cross of the Sphinx, interaction, and the cross of masks, which is really about, so these crosses are all about a certain type of wisdom, where you're either the Sphinx, kind of overlooking and being wise because you have such a big perspective actually in the interaction, or masks is thinking about people who are have titles and degrees, and kind of work behind those masks to be the leaders. In the Gene Keys, we'll talk about that in a minute, but it's division is the shadow, guidance is the gift, and virtue is the CD. And then the gate 13 in the earth is called the listener. And it's in the I Ching, it's also called the fellowship of man, or the listener. And these are universal ideas and values in an ordered framework which inspires humanistic cooperation. This listener is usually the person who is stopped in the grocery store, and by some person who says, oh my goodness, you look like somebody I could talk to. Would you mind listening to my story? Would you mind helping me? Would you mind giving me some advice or wisdom? And it's that kind of energy. The listener is one who people know they can trust. It's literally an energy that engenders trust in strangers and family and friends and anybody they know. So these people make great therapists and counselors and lawyers, consultants, people like that. So in the gene keys, discord is the shadow, discernment is the gift, and empathy is the CD. So discord in that some people are not good listeners. Some people aren't ready for that role. The discernment is where we're figuring out whether things are appropriate or not. And empathy, of course, is the highest level of the listener. And that's, it's coming from the G, from the soul, right? That you're so empathetic that you're listening in a way that people just don't feel like they're listened to very often. So I love this orchid that Richard used as a graphic here. Virtue is as delicate as a wild orchid. And he considers the CD to be virtue to be the CD for gene key 7. And so if we look at the shadow, which is basically the not self, it's about division, right? It's about hierarchies. It's about leading in a way that has the other people who are following not feeling so great about it, right? It's a corporate environment, for example. It's the corporation that has the leader at the top, and that's it. Everybody has to do just what he says or she says, and it's about division. So we've all grown up with these hierarchies, as Richard explains. This is nothing new. This is the way we've all been acculturated. This is the way we've all learned. And so is there a different way? Is there a possibility of the leadership qualities that we bestow upon people to be just guidance, or even better, to be virtue, to be coming from virtue, just purely almost as if the power that we're bestowing on them is because they're virtuous people. Now, if we look back in history, there are very few virtuous leaders that one can think of. In Richard's description, he actually has one leader, that he calls somebody who was a virtuous leader. And it's hard to imagine that the people that we're following are actually virtuous when so many of us know that, or at least expect, that they have an agenda, that they are wanting power or money or other perks of the situation. And so leadership can come with pluses and minuses. It's a lot of us are very wary of our leaders, very wary of government, very wary of corporate leaders, very wary of the billionaires that are going to space. There's a lot you can do with the billions of dollars that were spent on going to space. Now that's their choice. It's their money. They can do what they want with it. And the rest of us have an opinion about it. So if they think that that's virtuous, great. But not everybody does think it's so virtuous. And so they can perhaps get, and in fact, I mean, to be honest, it's caused division. It's caused division as opposed to guidance and virtue. And so those are the ways we can look at it. It's just a way to look at it. It's all about judgments, really. And so I'm not here to judge what the billionaires have done in going to space. I love the space program. I always have. I grew up on it. But we live in a place where we actually get to see the rockets taking off. It just, is something that Richard said. The real leader is the ultimate listener. And so when we put the leadership together with the listening, perhaps there's a message there, right? The 7th gift of guidance rests upon the ideal of service. And so if we're moving into guidance, it's all about service. How can we serve our fellow man? How can we serve the people that we're leading? How can we work with the people who have chosen to follow us or you or whomever, right? So he also said that every truly virtuous deed done by human beings represents an upsurge in the consciousness of the totality. So it's there's some hopefulness here in that We might have grown up in a hierarchy. We might still live in a hierarchy, but things are changing, right? Some corporations are coming up with mission statements that are a lot more guidance oriented, a lot more mission statements with a real mission, right? Mission statements that are about helping other people, mission statements that include contributions to charity on a regular basis, or even with every single purchase. And not that that has to be the rule, but it's certainly moving toward a more virtuous society. And so everywhere, every day, people commit small and often unseen acts of virtue, and the power of these acts is incalculable. They actually offset the power of chaos. So says Richard Rudd. And so what I think it behooves all of us to take that kindness and take that virtue into our hearts, and to actually raise people up with it, to raise our own consciousness, to raise our own vibration frequency, so that we're raising the rest of the world as well. So we've got a number of different people who were born this week in the Gate 7. So again, it's the right angle cross of the Sphinx, or direction, the cross of interaction, and the left angle cross of masks. And so we've got Whitney Houston, Dustin Hoffman, actually, a number of people who are actors and actresses who may be, hiding behind their mask of being an actor or actress. Kylie Jenner, Steve Wozniak, Lucille Ball, Andy Warhol. So these are people who have usually been in the public, who've usually been public facing, who have some followers, so to speak, people who like their work, people who are happy to see that they have another project underway, and who are hoping to get some guidance, perhaps, from watching their favorite people at work. And then this week in history, we've got a number of different things, and it's just interesting because the Gate 7, as I said, is also called the Gate of the Army. It's about groups of people coming together and working together with a leader. And so this energy, this archetype, showed itself in many ways during this week, first week of August, all across the world, in almost every corner of the world. I was surprised to see there were different wars starting, ending, escalating, lots of different things happening. And so it was pretty stark to see that there was so much of it. Especially since, the first week of August, you would think, well, why would, in the middle of the summer, right? Why would so many things be happening? But it happened to be, in World War II, that was the week, August 6th and 9th were the days that the atomic bombs were dropped on Japan, Hiroshima, and Nagasaki, and that led the Japanese to surrender. It also was the week that President Johnson signed the Voting Rights Act in 1965. In 1991, Tim Berners-Lee published the first website ever, which was called info.cern.ch. And as well, actually the same day, but in 1997, Microsoft announced it would invest $150 million in Apple Computer, which was interesting because that was their rival. And I actually hadn't heard about that investment from Bill Gates to Steve Jobs. That was kind of interesting to see. But it was also the time when, the week when President Johnson began bombing North Vietnam after the Gulf of Tonkin incident. It was when I think it was also the week when, Operation Desert Shield began in Saudi Arabia because Iraq was invading Kuwait. And it was also the week that Richard Nixon resigned as a result of Watergate. So, but also it was the Berlin Olympics when Jesse Owens, and in the first televised Olympics, by the way. He won 4 gold medals in track and field events at the Berlin Olympics. So there was a lot of things going on. As I said, there were actually just too many to put in terms of wars and battles and things going on. Just an interesting thing to see. It's the kinds of things that the reason I do these history tidbits is so that we can see patterns, so that we can see how the energies are affecting us and affecting really the entire world. As we're feeling them ourselves, we get to make choices. And as we feel this energy of leadership or hierarchy or wanting to be in charge or perhaps wanting to be invited to be in charge, that's the kind of energy it is this week. So watch the energy, see where you do want to be involved in something, see where you want to be recruited into some new project or committee or school PTA or things like that. This is the week when people will be asking. I suspect. I know that I've heard from a number of my clients that the kids are going back to school and the PTAs are starting up again, and all the charity events are starting for clubs and organizations, and it's certainly starting up in my charities. So watch for that. Watch so that you can make decisions about whether you really want to be recruited into those committees or not. You get to decide. So I wish you a good week. Have a great time. Be well, and listen for the things that you really want to be invited into. And if you are invited into them and you really want to be, then take advantage of that situation. But if you don't want to be, no is a complete sentence. Enjoy. Have a great week. Take care.